The final season of Lost had an interesting aspect that divided some of its audience. They flashed sideways. There's plenty of videos out there talking about it, but I'll be presenting an analysis into the reflexivity of this reality, which is that it's both symbolic of our own experiences, the TV audience, as well as a separate dimension which is revealed in the end as the afterlife of the characters. Characters in this place can also represent psychological states or symbolize a certain emotional aspect rather than physical beings. We're gonna look at character, time, reality, and in the end, see if we can break the fourth wall. The flash sideways is a term created by the writers for the reality we see where Flight 815 never crashes on the island. A term that was actually teased years before on the official Lost podcast.
Are we going to ever see any more traditional Lost flashbacks? By that I mean flashbacks that take place off the island before they ever were on the island, or I just need to get used to the new Lost that we see in Season 4?
I think the answer to the question is, all bets are off. We reserve the right to do flashbacks, flash forwards, flash sideways, and none of the above as well.
However, within the writer's room, the term was actually the Bardo.
And so we all liked the idea in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the idea of the Bardo, which was, and I'm overly simplifying a vastly complex construct. But the idea of the Bardo is like, it's a place that you go when you die, but you don't know that you're dead. And the entire purpose of being in this space is to come to the revelation that you have died, but no one's allowed to tell you. Like, it's like the Truman Show in that way.
Yeah.
So you can get pushed along the way or get hints, but no one can tell you.
In a previous video, I voiced my criticism towards it, and I still stand by it. I have mixed feelings on the cinematography, the structure of the season, the lack of interest, and the dominance of it in Season 6. In this video, I want to give my positive outlook on the flash sideways, the Bardo, which will also delve into my thoughts on this reality and whether or not we have a different layer outside the diegesis, the story world of Lost. Even though the show is firmly grounded in conventional story structure and being on network television, it's not going to be considered as art cinema. I would argue that it constantly tries to balance between a realistic and conventional show, but also the direct opposite. The way Through the Looking Glass switches up the entire formula is a great example of that, which according to film historian David Bordwell is a staple of art cinema, where the narrator gives us knowledge that the character doesn't have, in this case tricking the audience that we're now seeing Jack's future. It's not a surrealistic, complex show, but it is riddled with non-linear storytelling, dreams, symbolism, impossible symbolic elements, and a dimension where reality is filtered through subjectivity. There's a lot of layers of narration in Lost, which I also explore in this video. I would advise you to check that one out, starting off with the audience and the surface layer of the show, and the deeper we go, the more we go into the characters' thoughts, feelings, dreams, hallucinations, their point of view, and so on. So let's begin with character. I love the Season 6 premiere, and I think LAX has a dreamlike and mysterious vibe. I'm a big fan of stories about certain areas or places that behave strangely. In David Lynch's celebrated film Mulholland Drive, we get this mysterious character, the cowboy, which appears after the light flickers and disappears at the end. We get clues that he might be a supernatural entity. Maybe he's not even a real person. The inclusion of Desmond on the plane in LAX is absolutely magnificent, because we're not entirely sure if Desmond is a passenger on the plane, because he's supposed to be on the island. Is he a time cop or a reality cop or an agent of some sort? He appears and then disappears. Later, we learn that he truly is a passenger in this reality, that there is a logical explanation to his appearance, and in episode 11 we learn that there is a chronology. What I mean by that is that in classical narrative, things go from A to B. At the beginning of Adrift, we hear Jin is in the water. At the end of the episode, we see him running on the beach. We don't assume that Jin disappeared in the ocean and a clone spawned on the island like a video game. We know that he wound up from point A to point B. We create a chain of events in between, or maybe the show will fill in the blanks for us like it did a little bit later. Things go in order. An action and a reaction, cause and effect. Most of the main characters, just like Desmond, have a narrative. They go from A to B. Jack and Locke's conversation leads to his phone call and later on to their meeting and the operation, so the linear pattern is there. But some things just appear out of thin air, as if their life before death bleeds into existence. Jack's scar is a good example here. Like the act of looking into the mirror is what seeps this scar into existence. Little clues from his life, this one being the knife scar from the battle. Another is his appendix scar. Did it also appear? Jack is not ready yet to hear that he is dead, and this is a scar from his operation on the island, so he creates a false memory of him getting it when he was a kid.
When did I have my appendix taken out?
You were 7 or 8 maybe. You collapsed at school. Your father wanted to do the procedure himself, but they wouldn't let him. You don't remember that?
Yeah, I guess I do.
We're not entirely sure of the chronology of the people that got shot. Kimi, Omar, Mikhail, and this guy all die in the restaurant. This is even confirmed by Miles several episodes later.
We caught a multiple homicide at a restaurant. Victims were a lowlife named Kimi and 3 goons on his payroll.
Since this is the afterlife, do their bodies disappear after a while and then they respawn and then they go to hell? Or maybe they respawn the next few days to try again? Like some sort of Groundhog Day where they have to face horrible situation and act differently so they can move on? Or maybe they are just projections that in the perspective of our characters like Said, Sun, Jin, Miles and so on, they die, but Kimi's afterlife setting from his point of view is very different, probably in a setting he knows that is not a restaurant. This is all possible because this place is infinite. The entire season they brought back characters from the past seasons, but some characters never existed. Sam and Eva Jarrah were never born because Nadia had no children at this point in time, which would be roughly when Sam would be born, and she was moving all over, being on the run before meeting Said and then dying, so she never produced Sam and Eva with Said's brother in real life, so therefore they did not exist. Could we say that Said's Bardo created this happy life with a big house, a husband, and 2 adorable children, letting Nadia go from his turbulent life on his own terms, and giving that to his brother, the one who chose a peaceful act when he was a child, while Said chose to kill the chicken? This is one way to look at it. In the real world, there's a possibility that Omar left the country and distanced himself from the war-torn family, since we never see him in the first 5 seasons, and had 2 other children with another Middle Eastern woman. Another character that does not exist would be David, which is even more fascinating. He is a character created out of Jack's subconscious to process his father issues. To tie it with another movie that uses a similar philosophy regarding characters would be the underrated The Swimmer with Burt Lancaster. It's not as surrealistic as a David Lynch movie, but it also has a warm, idyllic feeling on the surface, taking place in a wealthy suburban landscape with trauma and flaws underneath. The main character just goes swimming through various pools, which are all part of the psychic landscape with no beginning or end. The situations are all memory based, and he encounters characters that represent ideas of his past, either lost youth or his illusion of superiority. They destabilize his perfect self and expose how he lies to himself. A lot of this can be applicable to the Bardo. Regarding David, there are theories out there that Kate was pregnant with Jack after they hook up in season 5 and that she will give birth to a boy that will be played by actor Dylan Minnette. It doesn't matter though. Here he is the son of Jack and Juliet. During the concert, he just vanishes. He's sitting at table 23 with Kate, Claire, Desmond and this guy. Kate and Claire leave backstage, but when Elvis approaches table 23, David is supposed to sit here, but he's gone. Is Desmond now sitting alone? Did this line,
"You don't have a son, Jack,"
even though it's technically uttered later in the episode, kind of made David vanish? He completely disappears, and it could happen to a lot of other characters. Minkowski is driving Desmond around LA, but after this episode, Desmond drives alone. And what about those that don't portray people we already know from the show? This woman, for instance. Let's say that Claire had her contractions in the taxi. Then Kate would take her straight to the hospital. Would this woman still be in this house crying? Or would the house be empty? Would she be activated by the characters when they rang the doorbell, like being conjured up in this reality by Kate and Claire's visit? I think that's very plausible. I want to mention one random character that probably vanishes after his role is served, and that is the mechanic. This is one of my favorite scenes of my least favorite episode, What Kate Does, and let me present a tinfoil hat theory. I believe this scene was originally written for MC Gainey. Maybe there was some scheduling and he couldn't come to play the role, because if we look at it, it's an older fella who wears the same clothes. And this scene could remind you of the first scenes with Tom and Kate. Tom is holding a gun here, now it's reversed. The next time they have a meaningful conversation is in the season 3 premiere, where Kate is changing in the Hydra locker room, and here it's a bathroom.
You don't happen to have somewhere I could change, do you?
Bathroom's over there.
He's helping her get out of the handcuffs both here and here.
Stick your hands out through the bars, I'll take off your cuffs. Scratched you up pretty bad, didn't they?
And this dialogue,
I got steady hands, but I kind of feel like we got off on the wrong foot.
maybe it has a double meaning, considering how lovable Tom became through season 3. Season 6 mirrors season 1. The first 5 episodes of season 6 mirrors season 1's character centricity, with a lot of direct callbacks. Therefore, with season 6 mirroring season 1, this episode would highlight the 2 most prominent characters from the others from season 1. Both Tom and Ethan would move on in their respective ways, like many other characters. But there's more about this scene with the mechanic that I like. Let's talk about bending of reality. This scene ends with her opening Claire's bag. This orca is not something Claire owned. It was actually owned by Kate and Jack while they were living together. This was Aaron's plush toy when he was a toddler, but it is in this bag. Since we know that the Flash Sideways is the afterlife, the Bardo, I believe that the contents of this bag manifested themselves to Kate. The bag is presenting an object from Kate's past, not from Claire's past, as that one toy she got to her adoptive son Aaron in her living life, and it's at that point she looks into the mirror. I believe the plush toy did not exist in the bag until Kate stole it from Claire and opened it, activating a part in Kate where she's so close to realize she's dead while looking into the mirror, but follows her heart and goes back to Claire. Film theorist Gilles Deluze said that cinema produces reality, and in this book he analyzed how cinema is propelled by action and reaction, but in his follow-up Time Image, he analyzed the incoherent spaces where time, memory and perception become more important. He expressed interest in movies where reality is not something linear, but fractured and outside our physical space. That what's on screen can no longer be taken at face value, and it can create a new type of reality, where memory and thought become main characters. The movie Synecdoche in New York does the same thing, with the main character's life being recreated in this vast space, and in it, characters are manifestations of self-doubt and even death, the very struggles he has faced in real life. The Bardo in Lost creates a reality that also mimics the character's past experiences. There's a lot of things that simply appear out of thin air in the Bardo, since this is a reality created by their shared consciousness. John Locke leaves the wheelchair here, but in the next scene it's gone, although that could be chalked up as a continuity error. A bigger clue would be the clothes in the final scene. Kate is wearing this strapless black dress and has no bag with extra change, but by entering the church, which acts as a magic box, she transforms with an entirely different set of clothing. Hurley also has a sudden change of clothing, despite him looking pretty good in a suit earlier in the episode. Some characters change clothes and some don't, but it tells us about how the fabrics of this universe can be changed. A common criticism about the Bardo during season 6 is how everyone conveniently lives in Los Angeles. This is just part of the twist. They've created a bubble, a reality that might reference other countries, but it's all just a simulated LA, and all the characters in their lives are in this dreamlike reality. Like David Lynch is portraying Los Angeles as a dreamlike reality in Mulholland Drive. Fans, including myself, were annoyed that Rose and Bernard no longer lived in New York, but now in LA. Or British characters like Charles Widmore, whose business existed in London, had his business empire in LA instead. But since this was revealed as the afterlife, it made sense in the end. The space may be disjointed, it draws attention to its own construction or artificiality. The Bardo is not that surrealistic though, and is firmly set in a real world with the same functions. LA looks like LA. There's cops, schools, and hospitals. After all, we are supposed to believe this is an alternate timeline for the final twist to work, with the most reality bending being the lamppost church, that turns a Christian church into this giant meeting point of all religions. It bends reality even more with the heavenly light that engulfs the church at the end. Time. Gilles Deluze was interested in time and change. He brought his own philosophies in studies regarding processes, using the phrase time image. Time image films examine the past and open it to be retrievable. It's the cinema of the mind. Everything is mixed together here. And the most telling fact is how each character perceives time from the plane landing on September 22nd to then moving on from the church. I'll illustrate with some examples. Jin and Sun are at customs. They get released, but are checked in at their reserved hotel rooms at their arrival date, the 22nd. They spend the night together, drink champagne, and the morning after they're approached by Kimi.
Mikhail.
Kyle, do you speak Korean?
Think so.
Okay, go get him. Now put your damn clothes on.
그 돈은 세관에서 압류당했지만 나한테 돈이 있어요.
While Sun goes with Mikhail to the bank, Jin is taken to the restaurant. Here, Kimi says this.
I got this. You go get the Arab guy.
Hey, I'm an Arab.
Just go pick him up.
So, let's move on to Saeed. Saeed arrives at Nadia and Omer's house after landing. They eat dinner together. That night, Omer tells him about the money problems. So it's the next day, the 23rd. Saeed sends the kids to the school bus. Omer is at the hospital. Then the kids will come back and throw a boomerang at the vase. It is nighttime now. For Saeed, it is September 24th, during the day, when Kimi's men take him to the restaurant. So we have a full day of inconsistency. Let's continue. After Saeed runs, Mikhail brings Sun to the restaurant. Jin escapes with a bleeding Sun, and they both arrive at the hospital at the same time as Locke. Let's move to Locke. Locke has a bath. The next day, on the 23rd, he returns to work. He is fired. We don't know if he meets up at the temp agency on the same day, but let's say he does. He still needs to go to sleep, wake up at 6:15, and then start a new day as a substitute teacher. We don't know how quick the process is in the Bardo, but let's say he gets that job immediately, and it is the 24th.
Okay, John. Now talk to me. How did you get fired?
I lied to Randy. I didn't go to the conference in Sydney.
Here he meets Ben during lunch. The 25th and 26th are Saturday and Sunday, so no school. So we start to see the fluidity of the Bardo. Then we have a new day. At the earliest, September 27th, Ben gives homework to his kids, meaning it's a new week.
Alright, remember 5 and 6 tomorrow, thank you.
And it's not the same day as this one because Ben and Locke have different clothing now. Alex comes to Ben's house at night, mentioning the AP exam this Friday, aka October 1st. Ben says 7 AM tomorrow morning for their tutoring. So now it's the 28th. We get 3 sequences after that, with Ben talking to Arst about retrieving Reynolds' emails, Ben coming to Reynolds' office, and then at the end when Alex comes in. She has different clothing, meaning it's a different day. And History Club is back on today.
Needless to say, some of us have to pull double duty.
But we have History Club today. Those kids need...
There are 5 students in History Club, Linus. They'll live.
So will I see you at History Club?
You mean when it's back on?
Oh, no, we've got our old slot back. Principal Reynolds found someone to cover for detention. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right.
Well then, see you at 4.
Bye.
Just one thing I want to add. If History Club is once a week, meaning every Monday, then this scene takes place the week after history exam. I find it unlikely since Alex is still carrying the books. History Club could be twice a week, every Monday and Wednesday for instance. Or they just arranged for one History Club meeting now at 4 just to make up for the one they missed earlier this episode. At the earliest, this is September 29th.
Well, it was nice talking to you.
Have a good day.
Then Locke is hit by a car and is brought to the hospital at the same time as Sun, which was September 23rd. You see the problem we've got? Time has no anchor. I hated it while the show was airing, since I thought it was a big mess of continuity issues, but I loved it after the end. The fluidity of the Bardo is fascinating. The extra-textual layer. We've looked at how the Bardo does some small tricks to show us that this is not Los Angeles as we know it, but is there a meta layer to the flash sideways, a layer outside the TV screen? It would be reinforced by the amount of mirrors. Each time a character looks into a mirror and sees themselves, we wonder if it is their own true soul on the other side of the mirror, and that is part of the process of being fully enlightened and aware of your own death. But could there be another layer with the TV screen? In my opinion, I think it's also a mirror to us. The TV screen acting as one and talking directly to the viewers. When Christian says the most important part of your life was the time that you spent with these people, he says that to Jack because it is his life. But to me it works both ways. It refers to him and us. The most important part of our show was the time that you spent with these people. It's what the showrunners tell the audience. Because here's the thing, why are certain characters in the church and some are not? The most important people in Jack's life would surely consist of his mother. His mother should be present in the church. It's completely ridiculous that she is not there, but it makes more sense with the audience in mind. We barely had any scenes with her, while the relationship with Jack and his father was the crux of the show. Or how about his best friend from childhood, Mark Silverman? He was the boy who was bullied when Jack was a kid, and later became his best man at his wedding. Surely he meant more to Jack than Libby, who did not have any scenes with Jack until she was dying. Mark Silverman had no importance to the audience. This is also why I'm fine with Aaron moving on in the Bardo as a baby, because this Bardo is primarily set in a 2004 reality, and we remember him mostly as a baby. If it was in the perspective of Jack, Aaron should be in the church as a toddler, since Jack acted as a parent to him and spent more time with toddler Aaron than baby Aaron. This relationship with Kate could be a year worth of time. Saeed is with Shannon because we spent more screen time between those two than with Nadia. Even though Saeed was married to Nadia and spent much more longer time with her, something that Jack also witnessed, but from the perspective of the audience, we saw more from Shannon and Saeed. We had a strong connection to the Hurley and Libby storyline, which justifies her being there. It might be biased towards the main characters in the first 3 seasons, which is also when the show had the most viewers on the other side of the glass. It's fan service to have Boone and Shannon rather than Ilana. It doesn't include all characters. Michael and Walt are not there, but I think their inclusion would confuse more viewers, especially with Malcolm David Kelly being 18 in real life here. And we're also missing Eko and Ana Lucia from the season 2 main cast list. We might theorize whether or not this is just one out of many moving ons for the characters. With this place being so fluid in both characters' space and time, who is to say that there's another reality where Charlie moves on with his mother, who he loved dearly, as well as Liam? Considering that Nadia died in Saeed's arms, she might have a different Bardo where she moves on with Saeed, and Omer is not even in the picture, since she doesn't even know him. Or that Hurley moves on with his parents. Miles worked with Sawyer for 3 years and had a stronger relationship with him than Faraday or Charlotte, and potentially became lifelong friends with him after they left the island. He's not in the church, but probably has his own Bardo experience, and maybe a version of Sawyer is there with him. It's all about subjectivity. Here it's Jack and us. Michael and Walt could move on together in a New York-based afterlife setting, and Eko could move on with Yemi in a Nigeria-based afterlife setting. After all, a popular theory is that this brief sequence of Eko and Yemi that is flashed as soon as Eko dies is him entering his Bardo, where the warlords never took Eko away during that football match, and that this is the brothers leaving the field on that particular day in a late 70s Nigerian setting. So my perspective is that Bardo serves 2 purposes for the characters and the audience. When Christian says that this place is there to remember and to let go, fits very well with this being a show that gained such a big audience that will remember the episodes and move on without a spin-off. The awakening flashes we're seeing are a compilation of great moments from the characters' lives and from the TV show Lost. The flashes aren't from the point of view of the characters, they are clips from the show. The shots pictured from the cameras on set, such as the long shot of Locke and Jack looking down the hatch, and the camera goes down. Their memory would be something like this, the pitch black shaft, but our best memory is the iconic shot that ended season 1. or the camera showing Locke's feet as they are moving after the crash, a fan favorite shot from Walkabout from our perspective. And we even have the monster point of view, where you'd think in an awakening we would see it from Locke's point of view, because it was he who described it as beautiful, but the awakening montage highlights the moments that were on screen. And the awakenings keep bringing those celebrated moments from the show, but it steers away from moments in misery, with the exception of Ben being punched, which was quite comedic. The "we had to go back" scene is not included, as it's the lowest point for Jack. Also, none of Locke's moments in The Swan. I mean, a compilation of great moments would make the finale 5 hours long anyway. I also love that the first thing Jack sees when he touches the magic box in the church is the first thing we, the audience, saw. The first image of Lost. Jack opening his eye. Not Jack's perspective when he sees the bamboo, but ours. We reflect not just on the character's experience, but on our own viewing experience, remembering the show, an idealized, oversaturated version of a small clip show. There is an extra-textual aspect of this reality, which makes it more interesting to witness. To use Gilles Deluze again, the Bardo on Lost exists in the pathway in between the movement image and the time image, between a world which is coherent, but also slightly bending, even engulfing the church in heavenly light during the night. The Bardo exists in the pathway between characters who are agents of causality. Jack meets up with his son, he does an operation, he meets Locke, and so on, classical and conventional, even though Jack breaks the fourth wall here. Looking straight into the camera, which in turn created a wave of internet memes. It's a blooper though, and a lot of the stuff I've mentioned could be categorized as bloopers, such as the missing David or the continuity with the dates, but we are free to analyze it deeper. A reality where the characters also exist as personifications of certain desires, dreams, or trauma. Obviously, it's not crazy like David Lynch's Inland Empire, where characters drift from place to place, but it's still worth mentioning. And time is subjective to each character, it has no constant, it's a collapsed past, present, and future.
Saeed. What's going on?
That's good. Stay down.
But it has these important anchors, with the concert being one of the biggest ones. The final season and the Bardo has a lot of flaws, but the beauty of it is that it transcends the diegesis of the show. I'm very glad we had it, because it's both inside the universe of Lost and mirrors our own experience.